Well, hey, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, good. It's been a little while since we talked, hasn't it?
Been about a year, I guess.
Yeah. And anything new going on? I always like to ask. Anything crazy, exciting?
Nothing.
What the world is like?
Not much. Just watching this granddaughter grow up.
Well, cool. I love that. And how old now?
Ooh, that's a great question. I want to say 7.
That's close enough. Right? We're not gonna tell your wife that you don't know. Okay. Well, good. Well, obviously you came back for a reason, and number one, it sounds like you're getting all that marketing that I warned you about, right? I told you that every fall when we go with a Medicare Advantage, we're going to get marketed to have, well, actually really whichever path we go, we're going to get marketed very heavily. And so I'm assuming you're probably already getting all that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of it in the trash can already.
Yep. Well, good. Hopefully, you know by now is any and all of those questions come to me, right? One of the beauties is that me being able to carry all my contracts through SMS tells me that I have access to a ton. I really get to be your personal shopper. And so what I get to do is take and compare. And if you remember correctly, when we talked about those 2 pathways last year, I talked about there's going to be changes every year, right? And they always happen at the same time. October 15th through December 7th, what we call annual enrollment. Sometimes you're going to see that marketed as open enrollment period. You're going to hear me call it annual enrollment, so don't confuse that.
Gotcha, okay.
So I always like to start where you're at. Remember, that's kind of how we did this last time. How did the plan work for you this last year?
Fairly well. I didn't have too many issues. Went saw my doctor a few times throughout the year. You know, sickness has popped up, but no hospital stays, anything like that. So I was pretty happy with it.
Okay, good. Anything that you didn't like? Any big surprises?
The big surprise, it was just kind of hard for me to find a dentist that would actually take my plan.
Yeah.
But so I didn't go to the dentist last year. And I know that's going to be a little bit of a problem if that keeps up.
Well, I don't want to be this guy, but why didn't you call me?
That is a good question. I have no answer. That's just, I should have.
Look, you know, I this is the line I use all the time, but if your plumbing was broke and you called a plumber, you wouldn't apologize to him I was bothering you. So many of my clients say, I don't want to bother you, right?
Yeah.
Well, imagine just like that. My job is to help not only find what's best for you, to help maintain and make that most functional. If we've got all these, remember I called it icing, all the extras, dental, vision, hearing, all these cool things, let's utilize it to its fullest. Because if you remember, I said that can be the first thing to go.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So if we're having teeth issues, let's go utilize it. So that is my job. My job is to make sure I can find, and I can go online real quick because remember, we're in the United Healthcare plan this year.
Correct. Yeah.
Wonderful. Just making sure you didn't go buy from somebody else when I wasn't looking. So that United Healthcare plan, and we're in the PPO, correct?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So, you know, one of the big things when we talked last year was network, and you were really happy with your group network. Have you felt like this network has been strong enough, no issues?
Yeah. I've saw the same doctor for quite a few years, and he's in network with me, so I'm all right.
Okay. Well, this is the time of year where things change, right? So one of the things my job is to make sure, because believe it or not, there are scenarios where you don't change doctors, but doctors change contracts, right?
Okay.
So the good news is I'm not seeing anything significant this year in changes with United Healthcare. They're staying pretty true to their contracts in our area. So there's comfort in that. The dental thing is an issue though, right?
Yeah.
So do you said the dentist you currently use doesn't take it, or you just didn't go see a dentist?
Just didn't go see one. The dentist I saw years back, I'm bad about going to the dentist. But he didn't work with the network.
Okay.
So I hadn't tried to figure out anything new since.
Gotcha. Okay. So current dentist not in the network.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's significant. So, you know, sometimes the icing, right? I keep calling that, can help us decide on a better plan. But we may also find that there are dentists out there that do not contract with any of these Medicare Advantage plans.
Okay.
So part of my job is we're going to dig deeper and figure out, is there one that's comparable in all the other offerings to look at the dental and add that? Or is there one that we may look at and go, well, this dentist is not contracted with any of our providers, right?
Okay.
And if we hit a wall on that today, what I promise I'll do is you leave me that dentist number. I'm going to call that office and I'll figure out what their network is. Do they have a preferred that dentists in particular, because they're not Medicare, there's not necessity for them to contract with Medicare. They can choose not to take insurance, and that's not uncommon, right?
Okay.
So the beauty is your United Healthcare plan, $0 a month this year, so we're not investing in that. So it keeps us kind of neutral if that benefit doesn't work. I want it to work. I want to be able to use that benefit, but if it doesn't, not a big deal.
Okay.
One of the big things, I know last year we talked about no prescriptions. Right? Has that changed?
It has.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind any idea, 2, 3 meds, like 1, 2, where are we at now?
So I take one for my diabetes.
Okay.
Just recently got diagnosed with that.
Okay.
Long family history. Figured it was coming at some point.
Okay.
Outside of that, I think there's just a anxiety med that I take, and that's all.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Do you happen to know the names of either of those?
The diabetes med is a pen. I don't remember the name of it.
Okay.
And Buspirone is the anxiety med.
Okay. So it's going to be very important that we figure out exactly what the name of that pen is, right?
Okay.
So I'd say probably here in just a couple minutes, we're going to call your wife, whatever, and look and make sure, because I'll go through and I'll sort through and give you kind of a variety, and you can tell me, yes, this is it. And if I hit one of those, you may go, oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Especially now, because diabetes is being treated with kind of 2 things. We've either got insulin injections or we've got some non-insulin injections now. And there has been some legislation put through that says our insulin injections can only charge so much. Some of these non-insulins, they can skyrocket. I tell people, if you see a commercial for a prescription you're taking, hold on to your britches. Right?
Okay.
You're going to pay. You're going to pay. So the reality is we'll get a little deeper and figure that out, because for me to do the most appropriate thing for you, that is going to be a necessity to know that. So do you happen to know starting letters or anything of that insulin or that injection?
I can't think of it off the top of my head. I know it's a yellow box, and that's all I can tell you.
Okay. Well, we'll dig deeper.
Okay.
Well, the good news is we got to look at a lot of things, right? So medicine's one, doctor's the other. We've kind of went over that. But we've got to compare to the other competitive plans. And what I'm going to tell you is, based on the market this year, United Healthcare has been extremely strong, right? I am never, ever big on change unless there is a benefit. I will tell you, we have at least 2 competitors in this area right now that I say are going to be significantly competitive in regards to product. And when I talk about that, I don't want to buy product on dental benefits alone or extras, right? Remember, I talk about this as icing. I want to buy based on core product, and if we're able to add the icing, even better. Okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm showing is United Healthcare has stayed really strong, but some of our competitors, Humana and Aetna, have come out with very competitive products. I'm also seeing that a lot of my clients on insulin, Aetna is a more appropriate fit, just so happens this year. So it's going to be very important that we dig in, figure out exactly what type of injection you're taking and how that falls in. Okay. Sound fair? So we've had kind of the dental surprise, but other than that, we feel pretty good. So, we talked about a little bit of these comparisons, and well, I noticed you just got a text there. Did we hear back from your wife?
Yeah. So I saw her text that it was Lantus that I
Lantus. Okay, wonderful. That's fairly common. So do you know kind of how much you take, like what the actual amount is?
Honestly, I don't. I could shoot her a message to see something.
No, what's nice about those is most of the time we can figure that out. Do you fill that monthly, every 3 months?
Every month, yeah.
Every month, okay. So roughly, most of those come in like a box with 4 pins. Is that?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. And does that last about a month for you?
Yeah, I think it spills over a little bit, but I do get a new box every month.
Wonderful. That's all we really need to know, because then what I get to do is plug that in, and these are generally standardized. Most of the time, most folks are on it. And if we run into a situation, you get back home and you look and something's not right, you call me right back, I'll adjust it, and we'll do something based on that.
Okay.
Okay? So, yeah, well, good to know. So we've got the Lantus, we've got the anxiety med. We've got that list done. We've talked a little bit about the ins and outs. So now I want to discuss kind of the comparison, right? So as these markets change, we keep talking about competition comes in. That's a very positive thing for you. We want you to get the best deal. Let me ask you this. I said earlier, I talked a little bit about Aetna, Humana, UHC. Anything in you that draws you away or a company you don't like, any bad history with any of those companies we just want to take off the list?
No, not that I know of. I always had United Healthcare as my group coverage too, so
yeah,
they've treated me well all these years.
Good. And you know, what's great is you said been a good year, and honestly, our United Healthcare plan this year is going to be what I call stable, right? And that doesn't mean there aren't any changes. I'm going to walk through some of those changes with you, the ins and outs. But when I look at it compared, it's been a very stable plan. So what I would say, no big significant changes.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at. So the good news is worst comes to worst. If we decide to stay, I think we're in good shape, right? But I do want to introduce those kind of other plans, at least one or two, because I think there's an opportunity to maybe improve upon your situation in a couple areas, and I want to see how that makes you feel.
Okay.
If that's a situation that seems significant enough for a change.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we're going to kind of start, if you remember on your United Healthcare, we're in the zero premium PPO, right?
Yeah.
Well, the good news is with Aetna and with Humana, we also have $0 PPOs.
Okay.
So level playing field, right? That's one of the big things. What I'm also seeing is with the United Healthcare, if you notice, remember the max out of pocket, that's kind of that total cost to you risk.
Right.
That is going up just a little under United Healthcare. And what we've seen is this Aetna plan, this Humana plan, both are going to maintain at probably about roughly $400 less total max out of pocket risk. Okay. So keeping that in mind, what I want you to remember on max out of pocket risk, if that was such a big issue for me, black and white, that we know we're going to hit this, that's a big enough number in its own to change. But remember, we talked about probably less than 10% of people nationally under United Healthcare in our area, less than 2% last year hit a max out of pocket. It's not a huge risk, that $400, but to keep that in mind.
Okay.
We kind of go through, when I go through this line by line, and if you remember last year when you decided on this United Healthcare plan, I literally went line by line by line to make sure you understand each. And in reality, Clayton, how many of those did you use?
I used seeing my doctor, and that was it.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're also going to look at all that detail on these other plans, but we're also going to talk about what's most significant to you, right? And what I'm going to do is run through and I'm going to highlight the areas that I think could affect you the biggest or that have the biggest difference from plan to plan, right? What I'm going to tell you is the Aetna, the Humana, the United Healthcare, when we go top to bottom, very similar, very similar. It's the extras, it's the little things. So right off the bat, one of the things we talked about, that max out of pocket, a little bit of difference, but not so much that I say you got to leave United Healthcare to go there. But then as we go down, one of the things I'm seeing is skilled nursing, okay? Understand that skilled nursing, we leave the hospital, we got to go into a facility and get better to go home. If you notice, United Healthcare, the first 20 days, $0, right?
Okay.
Humana, right now, $20 per day for the first 20 days, where United is $0 for the first 20 days. Now, what's similar is they both go to $203 per day for days 21 and on.
Okay.
So very similar, right? Then we've got Aetna, okay? It's also $0 for the first 20 days, and then we're going to 21 through 100 at 203.
Okay.
So similar, but the United and the Aetna are going to be more comparable, okay? So if skilled nursing is one that has significant difference for folks. As we go further down this, you're going to see MRIs and CAT scans.
Mm-hmm.
Under United Healthcare, we're up to $230 for an MRI or a CAT scan, okay? What you're going to notice under Aetna is that same procedure is only going to cost $150. Okay? Now, I will tell you, that's a scenario that a lot of my clients run into, right? We may not have a significant event. We may not have a lot of hospital stays, but we may slip and fall, hit our head, or have a situation where this one thing is going to happen to where that $1 amount can affect you, okay?
Yeah.
So where Aetna kind of stands out in that situation. Now, Most of our other categories, believe it or not, as we go through here are very similar. But what I'm going to tell you is when we get to the medicine, now that I've added that Atlantis in, we are seeing a significant savings on the contract with Atlantis, so much that what has happened with United this year is Lantus is no longer on their formulary.
Okay.
Do you understand what that means?
No longer on, but does that mean I can't get that medicine through them anymore?
So what it means is that they have a standardized formulary that says these are the prescriptions we're guaranteeing we're going to cover at these rates. We can ask for formulary exceptions. We reach out to your doctor. They know how to do this. I'll help you with that. And we can cross our fingers and hope United Healthcare will cover that, probably at a higher cost, right? Can't guarantee that.
Okay.
But what I can do is I look at Humana and Aetna and I go, okay, well, they do cover this. Pretty simple, right? They cover your prescriptions better. And I can look you in the eye and guarantee you that you're going to get a better, more consistent, with less hassle rate through this Aetna or Humana as far as that drug's concerned.
Okay.
But now we've added a whole nother caveat because, right, there's some things that Humana does better. There's some things that Aetna does better. But this one in particular is big enough for us to have a serious conversation, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So at this point, when I talk about those three, based on some of those copays, and at any point you feel like I'm leading you, let me know. But based on what I've seen, I almost want to take Humana out of that mix. And I think we're really talking about United Healthcare and we're talking about Aetna, right? Because we really like United. Aetna is going to do better on our drugs, but it's also doing better on quite a few of the other areas of Humana.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
And if we ever want to go back and look at the Humana again, because that seems like a good fit, let me know. We'll throw that in.
Gotcha.
Okay. So as we go further down this list, we're looking at some of these copays, right? And I would say top to bottom, the copays, pretty comparable from this point on. There's going to be a few dollars both ways. United's a little better. Aetna's a little better. What I want to talk about is the extras, right? I never, ever, ever want you buying on extras alone, right? Okay. But dental, right? We talked about a little bit about our network of our dentists. Well, the good news is we just did a little research. Your dentist accepts the Aetna product.
Great.
Okay? So now we've added the ability to go see your dentist. We've got a little bit better copays, right? And then I'm also going to talk about one of the neat things that Aetna did very recently is they've got this $200 medical wallet that United Healthcare doesn't offer, right? That's $200 every quarter that you can use to pay off medical bills, right? Will not work towards dental, will not work for vision, right? But as I look at this top to bottom, I am saying, look, I know United's been good. We've had one little gap. And when dental's the gap, that's not enough for me to say, look, you need to change.
Yeah.
But when we go through this line by line and I look at one, our prescriptions are going to be a simpler thing, right? My suggestion at this point is you need to take a serious look at this Aetna.
Okay.
What's your feelings?
Yeah. I'm not one that's quick to change anything, but with my medicines getting changed this year, it's kind of throwing a wrench into everything. So it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, and I will tell you, this year in particular, we're transitioning into a year that's going to be unique to this industry. Okay. We're going to see more prescription drug changes. We're going into a scenario where federal law has really, I don't even want to say tied the hands because it makes these insurance companies sound like they're somehow being abused. They're not. They're going to do fine. They're going to come out of this on top, right? But the reality is there's going to be more limitations on what they can and can't do, and we're going to see more effects on drugs. So I'm not surprised we're seeing this, right? But it does take to a place where I'm like, look, from my professional opinion, if that's what you're wanting, is this Aetna is going to put you in a safer position for this year and really, I think, will be a good fit for you.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay. Well, good. So now let's flip this thing around and we're going to go line by line through this and make sure you understand all the risks and rewards.
Okay.
Okay.